I wanted to start with a story. There was a consultant, and she was hired by a large supermarket chain, and she was in charge to lead a customer service program and build long-term customer loyalty. She gave an inspiring speech in front of all the employees and said, each and every one of you can make a difference by creating memories and motivating the customers to come back. She said, well, how are you going to do it? Well, you're going to put your personal signature on every interaction. So fast forward a couple of weeks, and she gets a call from a young man named Johnny. And Johnny was a bagger at the grocery store. And Johnny proudly informed her that he had Down syndrome. And at first, he just didn't know what he could do. After all, I'm just a bagger. Well, he made a decision. And he decided that every night he would go home and he would cut a thought of the day out, write a thought of the day, cut it out, and he would put it in when he was done bagging the groceries. And so cuts it out, gives the nice thought of the day. And what happened next was amazing. So a couple weeks pass, and the store manager is doing their rounds. So the store manager's nervous because Johnny's line is 3 times longer than anyone else's. And so he's trying to triage, and he's trying to open up more lanes. When all of a sudden, as the line is down the frozen food aisle, one of the customers says, it's okay. I'm waiting for Johnny's thought of the day. So the store manager is like, wow, that's okay. Well, 10 customers back, another customer says, that's okay. I used to, believe it or not, shop here once a week. And now I come every time I'm in the area because I want Johnny's thought of the day. Well, it's not over yet. So a couple weeks pass. Store manager calls the consultant again. Says, you're not going to believe what happened. The entire store is transformed. Our floral department now uses broken flowers or unused corsages. And they walk around the store and they find elderly folks or young children and they put the corsage or flower on. This isn't overly innovative, but what it shows is that he took the time, he listened to the consultant who said, create memories. And so today, we're going to talk about how do you do that? There's a big equation with engagement, and it goes with culture, workplace culture. So when you look at workplace culture, there's a lot of components, but the biggest is employee engagement. And so what we're going to talk about today is, well, how do we do this? We're going to talk about some definitions and stats. So in other words, what is defining engagement, and what are some statistics that back this stuff up? The big thing is these 5 factors. And I promise you, while they seem they're fairly simple, executing it is not so simplistic. And so we're going to go in detail with that. First definition. So when you're thinking of engagement, okay, so what is an engaged employee? This is high energy. This is high enthusiasm. This is the individual who goes above and beyond, the one who actually asks for more work. We love these employees. The next one is going to be the non-engaged. So the second bucket is non-engaged. These folks really have no attachment to work. They will bring the time, but they will not bring the energy and passion. They might be considered a clock puncher. They might be, even you've heard of the term quiet quitters, quiet quitting. That could go into this bucket. And the third, this is the dangerous one. This is the actively disengaged. I think we probably all agree that we might have 1 or 2 of those in our organization. They're unhappy, they're resentful, they are ready to leave literally and figuratively. If there were a water cooler nowadays, they would be circling around it and talking all the things that maybe isn't the best to talk about. Is a Harry Potter analogy. They are the corporate dementors. They are sucking the soul out of your organization and doing a really good job at it. That's the one thing for sure they're effective at. I wanted to show you a few charts from Gallup, and Gallup is a reputable poll, and they survey companies. There's 2 lines. The solid line is the engagement level over the last 20 years, 20 plus years. And the dotted line is the actively disengaged. And so you're going to see, actually from 2010, there actually was an uptick in engagement. And then we know things happened in 2020 that caused a precipitous drop in the overall engagement. When you peel it back a little bit, how about those under 35? You're going to see another stat that shows since 2019, a significant drop, a little bit more. And really what happened is the not engaged stayed the same, but the engaged kind of went over somehow to the disengaged. Now, what does that number even mean? Well, Gallup looks at the excellence of engagement. And to put things in perspective, 73% is where the top organizations fall in at. So 73%, as you can see, more than twice the average of engagement. And so I think that's where everyone in this room is striving to be. How do we find a way to get to the elite? You can actually break down the banking specific. I think banking, but it included insurance as well. And so it was in the high 50s. So it's a huge opportunity, and hence why I'm hopefully here to give you a little bit of a path of how can you fix this? What can you personally do as leadership of your banks and your organization? And so we're going to talk about these 5, and it starts very simplistic with a strong relationship with your manager. I think we're all aware that one of the key reasons people leave is why. There is a dissatisfaction with their immediate supervisor, manager. And so the great organizations find a way to have this listen and learn culture, right? They listen and they build the seeds of trust there. Trust me, this is critical, especially with Generation Z coming in, which in 2030 will be 30% of the workforce. So these organizations just have an amazing way from the time someone gets hired, first impressions matter. And they have leadership who's involved in every step of the way, meaning there's an introductory to Christina when she might be the candidate and I say, how are you? Welcome. Maybe I'm part of the interview. And maybe at the end, Christina actually would give a meet and greet and she walks around to a few key decision makers and meets them. It's the first impression. There is an amazing onboarding part. So what do I mean by onboarding? So on day 1, I don't know if you've ever been, I've been a victim of having one of my employees show up new and they didn't even know someone was coming. That's embarrassing. So they have an onboarding. They assign a branch buddy from day 1 just for some support. Someone they can shadow and follow for the first month or so. Within the first week, they're doing a lunch and learn. And so I have a chance to meet Sue. And I have a chance to really get to know what motivates Sue. Maybe what style gets the most out of Sue. What does flexibility mean to Sue? What are some of the hobbies and things you would like to share with me? The other one is almost like a little scavenger hunt, is where they say, you know what, Peter, I'd like you to meet 3 to 5 people outside the bank, outside your department. And I want you to do a lunch and learn like we did with Sue. I want to avoid this nervousness that happens in the beginning of the career. Leadership, this room, and it seems like there are many presidents and CEOs right here in powerful positions who've done it for a long, extended, nice period of time, very tenured and effective. And your presence is critical. And being visible is critical. And so what do I mean by that? I know the great organizations find a way that they're involved. Maybe it is in the training. So now I'm training, and at the end of the training class, I go up to Douglas, and I just say, hey, Douglas, questions? Any questions for us at the end of the training? I just want to be present in leadership. I would also recommend, and I don't know, and I'm assuming similar to a lunch and learn, I used to do new hire lunches as an executive with Enterprise with everyone who came in, everyone who would come in through our doors. And I would write my notes and take the time to learn a little bit about them. But it only matters if I remember that Ken went to whatever college Ken might have went to. That's what it matters. It doesn't matter that I just sat and kind of listened. You got to listen with intent. I don't know if you know that the new CEO of Starbucks, do you know what their commitment is? Anyone hear this? It's amazing. They only oversee a couple 100,000 employees. So yeah, he's going to spend a half a day in the field, side by side with the barista. That's a powerful message that Starbucks is sending. They're amazing in organizing. They bring their team together It's interesting. The energy here, you can kind of feel. It's just this thing of culture that happens. But they bring their team together consistently, retreats, volunteerism, when they go. And it's not just they bring all the employees here, but the employees here bring their significant others. And I get to know who those significant others are. It matters. So they do an amazing job of constantly bringing people together. There are no silos allowed. It doesn't matter what department, division you're part of. Their presence makes a difference. Once trust is built, it is amazing what you are able and capable to do. It is amazing what your employees will open up to. And you must be relatable and approachable. And if you want unique results, you better have unique relationships. The next one, clear communication of expectations and goals. This stat will amaze you. 40% are unsure. Gallup did a poll. 40% of employees are unsure of their goals and expectations. So what a huge opportunity, I guess, that is. The great ones find a way, a simple, clear, consistent message that goes through every layer of their management. How often am I meeting with my team? Is it daily? Is it weekly? Is it monthly? Is it quarterly? What is it? And I blend the how often with the what setting. Is it virtual? Is it in person? Is it an email? Is it a conference call? And the great ones have a way to balance this approach. So at a bank, it might be as simple as this. It's Monday, and my lead teller wants to spend 10 or 15 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever that is. And they're going to go with their team, and they're going to talk for a period of time on Monday about compliance opportunities, protocols. On Tuesday, it's cross-selling opportunities, and on Wednesday, it's customer scenarios or how to wow our customers even better, and so on and so on. And they stay to the goals and expectations of the organization. And then the next layer, whether it's an assistant, or maybe there's an assistant within the banking, the assistant meets weekly. Assistant meets weekly now with the lead teller. And each week, guess what? They're going to do a similar exercise. They're going to go over on week 1 compliance protocols or whatever they may be that is important. Cross-selling. And the next day, customer situations or whatever it is to follow the goals and expectations. And then it's going to go to the manager. And the manager is going to meet the assistant manager monthly. And they're going to have a scorecard. And they're just going to go over all the important things we used to call big rock items, the goals and expectations that must be talked about and ingrained. And that will go all the way up to the board. The board chair will talk with the CEO or president, or CEO and president. Twice a year, they're talking about goals and expectation. And the point is through the fabric, it is threading on a needle through everybody. They will use technology, and I'm sure many of you do this. They have a project management system. They find a way to make the priorities and goals established. And there's a variety of settings that they'll use. And then there's abnormal times. I know when I was talking with Sue, credit to everyone here for your leadership with all of the stuff going on within banking. And at abnormal times, they say you can't control the event, you can only control your response. And so during abnormal times, it's critical on the communication side of things. It is communicating regularly and acknowledging that we have something going on. Consistent updates. Getting in front of not only your employees, but your customers. The presence, as we talked about, right? The presence that you're going to have. Visibility, being empathetic to the situation that's going on. There's probably some extra stress level that there's there. And assuring confidence. Certainly looking for that silver lining that you have. And then here's the one I think we find a way. There is something called complexity bias, but this is addition by subtraction. This is the biggest opportunity I bet we all have. And what this is it is finding a way to reprioritize during high stress, unique events that happen. Think of it, I guess, as a basketball. Basketball will still bounce, but if you leave a little pressure off of it, not the standard, just a little pressure. So addition by subtraction. The next one. The right material and equipment and information to achieve your desired outcome. So critical with only another stat. Well, let me even ask, just from an engagement side, anyone on that table, what do they think? What is the percentage of employees who are aware and feel they have the right material and equipment to be successful? Anybody could yell it out. Percent of employees who feel they have the right material and equipment to do the desired outcome. Don't be shy. 30, okay, 30 and 40, thank you. So only 40%. Only 40% are aware of that. And so what are you going to do to create a training culture within your organization? Well, there's a few simple things you could do. You could start with needs assessments 2 times a year. I don't know how often you go over your training material, but a few times a year, you have to look for skill or knowledge gaps. Things happen and change quickly in business. You got to adjust, and especially with technology. Training journey, ensuring from hire to retire that there is something that exists for these employees. I know I gave a Harry Potter reference. This one's going to be another one. I don't think I'd be able to get a Harry Potter and a Karate Kid one coming up, but stay with me for a second. So it's an organization that what they'll do is, so if I'm going to the training, there's a pre-homework assignment. I mean, I've got to look and I've got to get ready for some of the material. Then I have the training, and then there's a post-assignment. I now apply the information. And so think of it as Mr. Miyagi would do to Daniel, his young student. He's doing all these errands and chores. He's painting his fence, sanding the floor, waxing the car. And Daniel thinks it's silly until Daniel actually applies it. And all of a sudden he applies it and he realizes, wow, when I apply this has meaning. They encourage on-the-job training. I mean, you make 100 decisions a month. Your teams make 100 decisions a month. And how many of those do you actually pass on? Hopefully a lot. They'll use instruments like simple stuff. I mean, a shadow log where I can follow Peter around and learn from Peter about all the things that he is able to do in a negotiation, compliance protocols, whatever it may be. They push things like learning logs, right? I can reflect and record what I'm doing. This is ingrained within the fabric of organization. It is a training culture. It's not a part-time job, and you must be intentional with it. And then they'll not do exit interviews, which of course we'll get value of. They do, I'm sure you've heard of stay interviews. And these are when your HR equivalent will go out, or you could go out, and you're going to get a pulse on things. And you're going to confirm what are some of the things that we're doing that's working with your team and what's not working. And you're just going to have a good conversation with your team. I will tell you this, sometimes with engagement or even culture, they think it's soft. The more I trained, the more I coached, the more comfortable I felt I could challenge. Next up, someone who encourages personal and professional growth. So, you have to develop your employees inside and outside of work. You have to get them to unlock their potential personally and professionally. And you have to have something that is going to have a setting where I do go over personal goals. And personal goals, it's as simple as putting it within the fabric of the organization where when we have conversations, we used to call them 30 minutes of fame. Where I'm just going to learn a little bit about maybe a certification you might be trying to have. It might be that you're trying to learn a second language. I can't see your name tag just so I can get it. Stefan is learning a second language. Maybe Stefan's about to buy his first house. Maybe it's his second house. But personally, I've got to stay connected. And I also, in a meeting like this, maybe like what you're doing now, is having someone who has some experience outside of the business, though. Maybe a financial planner comes in to your meeting settings, and they just, doesn't have to be every meeting, and they guide your team. We all know the anxieties financially that can happen. A financial planner. A nutritionist comes in, health and wellness. 3 simple steps to eat healthy, whatever it may be. And they have flexibility. I guarantee if someone were to ask a question, organizations who are highly engaged have flexibility. I don't mean a 3-day work week. I don't mean a 2-day work week. I just mean flexibility of what you're capable to do in a customer-facing opportunity. And sometimes it's the simple little things. It's having someone, instead of come in at 9 and it's 9 to 5, they come in at 11 to 7, and they just push it. That's actually what flexibility is. And they can do their errands. They can do some of those things that they might not have been able to accomplish, get a quick workout in, and they dominate personal development. I've talked to several people, and I know one of the opportunities is creating a bench. And so there's a lot of things that they do. They have a career mapping plan 2 times a year. They'll meet with their team, and they'll go over a career mapping exercise that looks into the trajectory of how Stefan is doing from his short and long-term goals. They'll look at leadership development. And again, you're going to hear some things that go, yeah, of course. But the question is what do you do with leadership development? What are you doing to create an inclusive workforce right now? What are you doing to assist with change management right now? What are you doing to have your team know how to run an effective meeting? 25% of leaders have never been trained. Or I think it's 25% of leaders have been trained. The other 75% haven't. These are behavioral opportunities. They have leadership groups. So they have these cross sections of employees, from Stefan, who might be new or experienced. They might have 6, 7 employees who get together a few times a year. And it's a diverse group. And what I mean by diverse is not ethnically diverse. Yes, it's ethnically diverse, but it's diversity of thought, of gender, of generation. And so they look for opportunities. They look for how can we, maybe one of the committees is how do we attract the future of the banking industry? Maybe it's what products or services are we supposed to come up with that will separate us? What are some of the things we need to think about in the banking industry with brick and mortar, with the new generation who might not want to go to a bank and has rarely been to a bank? And that's what those organizer groups will do. Your think tanks, I guess you could call them. And then I know we've heard of mentoring. The question is how intentional are your mentoring guidelines? For example, the great organizations will do an amazing job. So they will have a defined goal of a mentor program. What is the goal that we have with this? What is the selection process? It should not just be people participating in this room. It's got to be a variety of people who can make an impact. Do you assign them? Is it sought out? What's the matchmaking process? They're ironclad on how that works. They train their mentees and mentors. They explain what the relationship is all about. And so Christina knows, being a mentee, or if she's the mentor, what are those things that are critical to be a great mentee or mentor? And they reward them. Maybe it's they go to the CCBA and the mentor-mentee of the month gets nominated and they get an award tonight. And if you're real creative, a lot of organizations are using what they call reverse mentoring. And so what they'll do is they'll actually have a junior level executive be the actual mentor for the senior level executive. And you could break this down by those from underrepresented groups. It could be generational differences. And so they're really intentional with what they do. And the last one, home stretch, is recognition. And now we're going to ask that the table right over here where Ken is, Ken's table, the percent, how many people in the U.S. feel that they're recognized for their, again, according to Gallup, I didn't do it, but give me a number. How many people? Don't be shy. And 35. Good news, a little bit better. So only 60% feel that they're recognized, 40% do not. And so what are some of those things that the organizations or the folks in here are doing? The ones who I'm very impressed with, they have the right number of awards. So it's not 17, it's not 2. It's kind of the Goldilocks version. It's just right. Maybe it's 7. They have the right number of awards. They do a great job of diversifying those awards. So it's not just core area. There are awards that you get from being and representing your values of your organization. So it's the number, it's diversifying them. They know what employees want. They might even give options. It might be money, it might be time off, it might be a half a day with the CEO. Whatever it may be, it might be a plaque. They might give options. And then what they'll do is they'll review those awards lastly. So they'll make sure they're driving the right outcome. And so you always want to remember, well, the good news, no participation trophy for sure here, okay? But you will always recognize effort. You will reward excellence is the goal. And so the key here is these 5. What I'd love you to be able to do is just go back to where you are and you have a framework of which you can look through. You can get your teams involved in a simple exercise. This is actually one of the first workbook exercises from the book, is to take the factors and put 3 initiatives under each one and communicate it relentlessly. And so in closing, I wrote a final little word path for you. I hope you'll enjoy. So as we conclude this speech on employee engagement, let's commit to actions that bring fulfillment with no estrangement. Building strong relationships with our team should be our core. Collaboration, communication, and trust are what we should explore. Clear communication of expectations and goals is the foundation for employees to deliver their best with determination. Providing the right material and equipment is essential. Empowering our employees to achieve success, making it influential. Encouraging personal and professional growth should be our top priority. A valuable investment in our employees' potential for prosperity. Rewarding top performance is a key part of recognition. Acknowledging their contributions, creating a workplace of ambition. So let's keep these actions in mind and implement them to ensure we find engagement that brings fulfillment to our team, creating a workplace that is more than just a dream. That is it. So now, oh wow, I'll take applause. Applause is good.